In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how to create an isometric drawing. And so the first thing you want to do is grab a piece of isometric grid paper and then fill out the title block in all capital letters. Make sure you're doing a nice, neat job, just like a student professional engineer would do. And then the next thing you want to do is observe the object. So I'm going to zoom into that. And so this object is fairly complex. It has two angled surfaces. And you can see that here's one of the surfaces, here's the other. And then it also has a hole in it right here where my cursor's at. And so it doesn't tell us how deep the hole is, therefore we assume it goes all the way through. And so to get started, we're gonna practice what's called subtractive modeling. So we're gonna draw the overall rectangular cube first, and then we'll carve the pieces and parts out of it. Now keep in mind, just like I taught in the lesson, that we draw all isometric lines first, and then we draw non-isometric lines last by connecting the ends of existing lines. So what is an isometric line? Well, that's a line that is vertical, so watch my cursor, right? A vertical line, or a line at a 30-degree angle going off to the right, or a 30-degree angle going off to the left. All other lines are non-isometric. They don't tell us what angle they're at, because again, we draw them last by connecting the ends of existing lines, therefore the angle doesn't really matter. So what I want to do to start with is I'm going to just kind of rough in. I want to use green ink just so it's a little different than the blue ink that you see. But I'm going to pencil in right on top of the isometric what the overall block looked like before it was carved out. This might get a little bit sloppy, but that's okay. You'll get the idea. And of course, you're always welcome to do this yourself if this helps you. All right, so something like that. And so we're going to draw the overall width, height, and depth, and we're going to make an object out of that. Then we'll carve the pieces and parts out of it. Okay, so first thing is first, where is my leading edge in an isometric? That's the edge that appears to be coming off the paper and is closest to us. Well, that's the edge that I just made because it had been removed, and so that's where my cursor's at. It's that edge. If I step to the left, turn and face the object, that's the front view, and that shows me width across the front. If I step to the right, turn and face it, that's the right side view, and I see depth across the right side view. And then, of course, the height is from the bottom up to the top. So let's go ahead and write down the overall width, depth, and height. We'll write it right on our drawing. And let's see, this is, I'm going to have to zoom in a little bit. Let me count here across the back. So it is 10 blocks wide, and that's in this direction. And I would write this down, and how you write it down, label it, as long as it makes sense to you, that's fine. You'll see in other videos of mine that I do it differently. Again, whatever makes sense to you. They're just there to help you out. Okay, so that's the overall width, and the overall depth is 8 blocks, and that's in this direction. And then the overall height is 8 blocks as well. Okay, so now I can come out here to my paper, and because I have the isometric in the upper right-hand corner, I'm going to, rather than start in the middle of the paper, say in here, I want to cheat down a little bit and a little bit to the left. So somewhere over in this area, I want to plot that point right there. So I'm just going to go ahead and just mark that point. Let's say it's right here. Okay, right here where I put that dot. So that dot is right here. So I can go 10 in this direction, 8 in this direction, go up 8, and then make my shape. So to start with, I'm just going to draw some lines, extra long. Now I want to do this as construction lines, so real nice and light, so that when we get all done, we don't have to erase anything. But yet these lines were here to help us roughen the shape. Okay, so like this. So now I can count along the lines. And I can plot dots. That's where the line should have ended, was right here. And here for the height, right? So right here for the height, and then across the front, that has to be 10. So right here where I put my dots. So now I can just project these up, and I can follow the isometric grid, and I can make my shape. So this might just take a minute. Okay, so there we have it. So now I would start in the front view, because the front view is typically the most detailed view. And let's draw the surfaces from the isometric that are touching or are a part of the original rectangular cube. Okay, and so that would be, and let me do this maybe in a different color, just so we can see in the front view, the only existing surface that I haven't carved out and removed is this one here in yellow. So this rectangle, and this ellipse, which is called an isometric circle, and then just this line here. So I need to draw those in the front view. So if you want, you can come back here and you can count the pieces and parts, count the lengths of the lines. So this one here is 6. And it's 6 tall as well. So 6 by 6. So if I come back over here, I count that out. And then I can just lightly pencil this in. And so this surface here is this surface here. So again, this is the surface that was a part of the original block. Okay, next thing I want to do is I need to draw my ellipse. So this ellipse is on the front of the object, so therefore it is slanted to the left. If you look at this ellipse, it is slanted to the left, and that has to do with my 30-degree line right here. Okay, so what I want to do is find out where the center of that ellipse is, because now that I've located the center of the ellipse, I need to locate that over in my own drawing. Okay, and so like we've already predetermined, that is 3 over from the right and 3 up from the top. I'm going to then draw this slanted rectangle following the vertical and 30-degree grid lines, and then we'll do a few more things to it that I'll demonstrate over here. So I'm going to come over 3. Okay, so that's going to be right in this area, and then come up 3 right there. Okay, and then I want to draw that slanted rectangle. Well, it is 2 blocks tall and 2 blocks wide. Okay, so from this, I'm going to draw this in right here, like this. Okay, all right. Now, just for visual purposes, I'm going to erase a few things kind of as I go along, so I don't have too many lines on here to confuse you. All right, there's our slanted rectangle. What I want to do next is take each one of the sides and just divide it in half with a little line, like that. Just use your eye, estimate the center. Okay. Okay, then I want to take and connect the opposite corners. And then from the center, I'm going to go out the distance from the center to the corner. I'm going to come out about 2/3 the length of that line. Just use your eye, so about right here. And then I'm going to take this distance and divide it into thirds and come out about 2/3, so about right here. And do the same here, so it's going to be about right here. And the same in this direction, so about right here. Okay, so now what I want to do is make 4 arcs. I'm going to switch back to my blue pencil here. And my first arc is going to be connecting these 3 dots. My second arc, I'm going to do the opposite side here. My third arc, I'm going to connect these 3 dots. And my fourth arc will be connecting these. Okay. And so when you get done, it's not going to be perfect, but it should look pretty good. Okay, and so that is my isometric circle, also known as an ellipse. So again, now I use green ink. You want to use your 6H pencil and just draw all those lines real lightly. And if you have to, once you draw the ellipse, if you need to, not necessarily really delineate it quite yet, but just go over it a little bit so it stands out, because you do have a lot of lines right here. Okay, but we'll use our 2H pencil later and really do a good job delineating that. Okay, so I've drawn all the pieces and parts in the front view that were a part of the original block. Okay. All right, now let's go over to the right side view. So zoom in a little bit. Let's count out some lengths of lines here to help us out. Well, we've already got how deep it is from front to back. We already know how tall it is. I'll go ahead and write that down again. That's 8. And I determined that over here earlier. And then if we determine the length of that, which is 2, again, you can write these numbers right on your isometric drawing to help you out. Okay, then I'm all set. How long is this? It doesn't matter. At what angle is it at? Doesn't matter. But this surface was a part of the original block, so we need to draw that. So let's use the measurements that we do have, and let's draw this out. So it's going to be 8 this way, which is already there. 8 this way, which is already there. And then we're going to come forward 2. Now, how do we draw this line at an angle? Well, we draw it last. It's a non-isometric line. We're going to connect that point to this point. Now, this is where having a straight edge, which I can bring mine out here, will be very useful, like this. So line your straight edge up and then strike your line. Okay, so again, we're still just working on surfaces that existed as part of the original block. Okay, the right side view is done for now. Let's go to the top view. Well, what surface was originally part of the block? Well, that would be this surface here. So once again, let's just count out the lengths of the lines. We can write it down. This here is going to be 10, and I know that from down here, drawing the front view. So this is 10. We already know that's 2. This here is 1, 2, 3, 4. And then, let's see, this overall should be 6. Yep, that's 6. Okay. Okay. Notice that I did not count how long this was or how long this was, and I'll show you why here in just a minute. So let's draw what we do know. So we already have the 2. That's here. Right? That's here. That's the 2. We already have the 10. I'm just going to go ahead and slightly delineate that. Again, you use your straight edge and your 2H pencil later. And then I want 6 blocks of this line. That's going to be right here. Okay, and then what I want to do is bring that over a little bit extra long. And if I look over here in this drawing, where this line comes straight up and then hits my green line and bends back, that's where this is at. So I don't need to count it out. So I can just bring this up till it touches this line and then follow that grid line back. And so it should end right there. Okay, right there. Okay, and then I can bring this line straight over extra long, bring this line back till it touches, and that makes these 2 lines. And again, I'm just going to slightly darken these in so you can see them. Okay, and so now I've drawn the surface and the top that was touching and a part of the original cube. Okay, let me go back to the front view and just delineate that just a little bit so we can see those. Okay. So now we should just be able to finish this without doing any counting, any measuring, or anything like that. Just observe this object and find the lines that we haven't drawn and see where they connect, and then just connect them over here. So this line connects with that corner to this corner. So this corner to this corner. So yes, it would definitely be useful to use your straight edge. So that goes there. This connects here. And this connects here like this. And the drawing is all done. The last thing I need to do is delineate my lines. So obviously you're going to use the straight edge. I'm going to do it freehand because it's not difficult to use the ruler in Apple Notes, but it's also not convenient. So I'm just going to do this freehand just to speed this process up. And as with everything, practice makes perfect. If you want to get good at being able to draw good straight lines without a straight edge, you just have to practice. So my lines are fairly straight. Of course, take your time. This is where you're truly delineating your lines. With your 2H pencil, it should be dull, so you make nice thick lines. Okay. And we'll zoom in and we'll do the ellipse as well. And that is the drawing. It is complete. And that's how you create an isometric drawing through subtractive modeling that happens to have a hole on it and a couple of surfaces at an angle.